Okay, now I'm going to tell you about the lessons learned at Al Salah, the newest and most efficient place for carbon storage. The environmental issues, which were talked about by Anna, are very minimal, and when considering a location for CO2 storage, you have to consider the geological layers that you're going to be injecting it into, because they are typically non-homogeneous. As in this case, where you're using an ancient riverbed. There are also the rock mechanics and the correct fracture characterizations, because if you assume and assume incorrectly, then you can create a leak or contamination. It's also important to observe subtle differences. In subtle, I mean in the millimeters, in the area of CO2 injection, as it may relate to gas shifts below the surface, not quite being as stable as you'd like them to be. Safety risks. This was mentioned in Domenica's presentation, that there was a well that had to be shut down because it was leaking. And that is the biggest concern, is well failure. Also, reservoir and caprock integrity are important to consider, because if all of a sudden the caprock becomes unstable, perhaps due to an earthquake, then your well is no longer safe. Also, monitoring, just talked about by Alicia, is very important, because at this stage there is not a lot of information collected. CO2 storage and sequestration is new and still in the developing stages, so to accumulate as much information as possible to investigate more efficient ways to save money, to choose better locations, and to set precedences for future CO2 storage and sequestration. So, proper site selection. This site was pretty remote, which is good and bad in that it didn't affect any big communities, but it is a concern when something goes wrong and you have trouble getting the help there in the proper amount of time. However, it was not seismically active, and it was in the desert where not many species are living. Investigations into marine species that live within the rocks so far have been inconclusive. So that can be a concern in some areas, such as in Texas, I believe. They found species living within the aquifers, but so far here, not so much of a deal. Okay, the EU directive has aimed at establishing a legal framework for environmentally safe storage, so that it isn't just guessing as you go, but regulated. And this includes selecting storage sites, which are a geological formation shall be selected as a storage site if under the proposed conditions of use there is no significant risk of leakage, and if no significant environmental or health risk exists. Education is the biggest and most important aspect of all of this. And as we mentioned before, there has been a lot of effort put into educating the community of Al Salah, so that they don't fear the technology and they actually benefit from it. Then also to inform people that CCS is helping with the environmental benefits, and the negative CO2 going into the atmosphere is the biggest advantage There are a lot of uncertainties involved, and these can include the effects to human health, but CO2 to the human body is pretty well documented. And the drinking water has not been affected since the community benefits with good potable water. Thank you for your attention.